Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, America. Coronavirus might have a grip on you. Nobody has a grip on Cleveland's best American sports history podcast, hosted by my good friend Peter Ray. I'm Mark Mancini, producing this thing tonight. 347-205-9631. You can also download this show on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports, iTunes, Spreaker, all the platforms where you can get your podcasts from. Without further ado, let me give him the podium and the mic. First of all, Peter, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, you got one heck of a guest tonight.
Oh, hi, Mark. I'm fine. It's wonderful to be back with another show. And I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray, R-E-A, and I make history videos, including every year in Cleveland baseball history, going back to 1869. And tonight we have Cindy Cobb, the granddaughter of the incomparable, the Georgia Peach, Ty Cobb. Wow, it's a real honor, Cindy, to have you on the show.
Hey, well, thanks for the invite. Glad to be with you.
Yeah, we, I can't think of a better topic for American sports history. Your grandfather played MLB from 1905 to 1928. Lifetime 367 batting average. I can't get that. That's one of the things. Baseball is big in stats. It's a big part of the game, and hitting 300 for any season is just a major accomplishment, and considered a good hitter. And 367, that's never going to be broken. I mean, and he's also in the 4,000 hit club. The only two guys, along with Pete Rose. I like the story you told about Keith Hernandez looking at you and just saying 4,000 hits over and over and shaking his head. Now, the thing is, and one of the cool, Ty Cobb was just such an entertaining player because he'd get on, to me, similar to Jackie Robinson, because he'd get on base and the fans knew something. He could take off on any pitch, steal second, third, home. Very tremendously entertaining player. And also he set a record, 54 steals of home, which is one of the coolest plays in baseball. Now, the thing is, this is an important topic, not just for a great baseball player, but one of they rated the top three of all time. The thing is, 1994, there was a book published called Cobb, The Life and Times of the Meanest Man Who Ever Played Baseball by Al Stump. The same year, a movie came out titled Cobb with Tommy Lee Jones. And a terrible crime was committed because Ty Cobb had a reputation as a tremendous baseball player and as a very fine human being, highly respected, a good person. And then this book came out, 33 years after his death, and then people accepted it. They thought, oh, Ty Cobb, great baseball player, terrible person. And it was a real crime. It was a character assassination, and because, it was just a horrible thing. And then the thing is, in 2016, a new biography came out by Charles Learson, 2016, which basically debunked and said the stuff that Al Stump. The thing is, he tried to make a name for himself and make some money, and he committed a crime. So tonight, I hope we can be a part of the efforts that Charles Learson really initiated with his fine work to restore Ty Cobb's reputation as a good man. So your thoughts, Cindy?
Well, I'd like people to ask Stump who. Who? I'd like to lose him to history. He did a terrible misservice to my granddad, and not only the Shelton, he teamed with Shelton to write the book, but way back in 1961, an original biography was written, and he was He had been a band writer, and why they teamed up with him up with Ty Cobb, I have no idea. But he was not Granddad's kind of person, the kind of person you look to with respect and admiration in your field. So Al Stump was not well thought of back then, and he's Al Stump. Oh my gosh, he stole from my granddad, and he forged documents. And one story, when he was taking notes or whatever he was doing with Granddad for a couple days, he visited my grandmother, trespassed, and she chased him away with her garden hose. And so he was found going through Granddad's trash, and my cousin caught him sneaking into Granddad's office and snooping around uninvited. And he wasn't, not a real outstanding kind of figure. But,
so your grandfather, he was a smart fellow and made good money in baseball, and then he made some very wise investments in Coca-Cola and General Motors, and set up this college scholarship fund for Georgia residents. You want to talk about that?
Well, education is so key to understanding people and events, and I mean, we can't argue with that. So, but a little background is Ty's father was an educator. He was an editor of the newspaper, and he was also a state senator for Georgia. And one of the things he did was to fight for his black constituents' right to equal education, and that was not popular back in the early 1900s. And but what William Herschel, his father, said was, education is the key to a true democracy, and no one can deny that. So I feel really fortunate that Charles Learson came along and did the research to kind of reveal what has never been really written about him before. And I'm very thankful for Charles Learson and his 4 years of research. And
your father was James?
Yeah, so my dad was Ty and Charlie's youngest child, one of 5, and then I'm one of 15 grandkids. I'm one of the youngest of the family. So my dad was born in 1921, so he was very young when Granddad was late in his career, but he used to talk about this visual of seeing him come home. This was in Detroit, but seeing him come home with strawberries up and down his legs, and my grandmother used to help Ty soak his dirty, bloody ball pants off his legs after the games, because he was a hard-playing man, and that came along with it, with those wool pants. And did
your father ever read the Stump book or see the movie?
I can't say if he read the Stump book, but he was definitely aware of Al Stump in 1960 and 61 when he came along to write Granddad's biography.
Did he see the movie?
Oh God, no.
What did he say about? What did he say about what Al Stump had done?
Stump is a dirty name in my family. We are not fond of Al Stump one iota.
Right.
He with his false narrative. It's like I said, someday I want people to ask Stump who, and so.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and the thing is, right now we're in the process. It's a process. People get ideas, and that's the thing. Is changing these ideas, which were from 94 to 20. That's 22 years. That basically the Stump's ideas went unchallenged in the popular opinion.
Well, I can't say that they went unchallenged because they were unchallenged. I mean, they were challenged. They were challenged from the get-go.
Okay.
But what's often said is if you repeat a lie, it becomes the stuff of legend and myth, and people they like sensationalism. And but what I always say, the truth is way more interesting. Ty Cobb was an extraordinary man and lived an amazing life, and there's so many incredible stories that just people don't know, and Peter, that's what led me to research archives myself. And I encourage people to go to museums and libraries, universities. The collections have been digitized, and you can access them online, and old newspapers and photos and that kind of thing. So for me, it's been a lot of fun coming across some great gems that talk about the career of my granddad in a positive light, because that's there. Archives in the Hall of Fame, positive, lots of great things. So anyway, it's been kind of a sad statement on what has been done to his legacy, and
I think it's interesting. Go ahead.
It just overshadows all the great things that he has done in his life by putting the lives in the forefront. And
Well, it's interesting. If you're a good man and you're doing things, you're not going to spend your time telling people about it. Like you said, he did a lot of things that to help other people in different ways, and he didn't want that known, because actually that's what good men do. So then the public do, and that's what your job is, and my job, and people who want the truth known about a great man. So I like the story you told about Mickey Mantle, who wrote to him. Everyone loves Mickey Mantle. The telegram he wrote to your grandfather near the end of his life, thanking him for the encouragement and batting tips he'd provided him.
Right. There's some great pictures of Ty with the young players. One of them is with Mickey Mantle, and people suppose or assume they're talking about one thing, and that's just human nature. But yes, Mickey wrote him, and he said, saw where you were in for a rest. Just wanted to say rest well, and thanks for all your advice on hitting. It has helped me, Mickey Mantle. And he sent that 10 days before Ty died. He knew Ty was dying, and he wanted to get this message to him. So, there's a lot of good things happen too. So good exchanges, and
now we have a caller, Lou from New Jersey, who's been patiently waiting. Lou, you're on with Cindy. Do you have a question for Cindy Cobb, the granddaughter of Ty Cobb?
Well, first of all, let me say it's an honor to talk to you, ma'am.
Hi, Lou.
Hi.
Thanks for calling.
I'm just sorry I never got a chance to see your granddad play. I mean, I wasn't born till 1970. So now you got a chance to know your grandfather. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
I was one of the youngest grandkids, so I was very young when he died, and so I know him through my dad, who spent a lot of time with him. My dad was the youngest, and remembered a little bit of him playing. You know what he remembers are the trophies that lined the living room that were like 3 feet and 4 feet high, and he received so many accolades. It was that was a great memory.
Well,
of
yeah,
my
I did.
dad.
I have seen some old footage of that, of your granddad, during his heyday, and how
sure.
and he also, of course, held the base hit record for decades until, well, I'm not gonna mention the guy's name, but you know what I mean. So, I mean, that's what we thought, that one of those records would never be broken, but on September 1985, it did, and well, yeah, I did see that game. But,
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, back then we were allowed to have those Philadelphia channels on our set before other circumstances.
Sure.
But,
I just want to, can I just say this, that, Ty Cobb retired with over 90 records, and of course many have been broken, but if people ask me, what would Ty have said about that? And I would say that, Ty, like anybody that tried hard, that put his best forward, and he would have been honored for somebody to break a record, to just try to go that distance.
Yeah.
So.
Well, ma'am, what was your fondest? I know you didn't have a chance to know him that well, but what was your fondest memory of your grandfather?
I was very young when he died, but he traveled a lot for baseball, crisscrossing the country when I was young. So
I think he's asking what your dad said about him.
Yeah, well, I remember going to visit him and sitting in his lap, and he colored in our coloring book with my sisters and I, and read us fairy tales. Grandfatherly stuff.
Well, because I didn't get a chance to know my grandfather that well either. I mean, he passed away when I was 7, so I think I can relate to that. I do have some little bit memories of him that but I was able to remember that he did come around every Sunday or every other Sunday and visit us. So
right, there you go.
I didn't get a chance to know him like you did. So yeah, because we got something in common.
I tell you, one of the things. I'm sorry to interrupt. But one of the things that probably brought me really close to him was I grew up polishing his trophies, and they're all at the Ty Cobb Museum in Royston now. But that was kind of an interesting thing to do as a kid, and we had a bronze cleat that we used to take to show and tell in grammar schools. And so, we didn't, I didn't even know he was famous really until I was probably about 12, and we went to the 100th anniversary of baseball in Washington, D.C., 1969, and everybody's dressed up in tuxedos and the women in gowns, and I went up to everybody in a tuxedo to get autographs, and I did pretty good. The only player I recognized was Yogi Berra, and everybody else did. I guess I met Satchel Paige, and there were still some players back then that would have remembered Ty that had played with him in his later career. But so I have a lot of their autographs too. But, I really didn't know he was famous, and he just had a high-profile job.
That was around the time when I was about 12. I started, noticing more about him. When I was really getting more into other teams other than my own team, which I don't know if I'm going to mention or not, for personal reasons. I don't want to. Well, I'll put it this way: I'm from New York, so New Jersey, so you can tell I'm one of the fans of the Yankees. Oops.
Oh, that's fine, Lou. Everybody loves the historical Yankees.
I know, but I also started, paying more attention to other teams about baseball history as I got to about 11 or 12 with, the old timers like the Cubs, the Phillies, because they go back a long way too, the Red Sox. Eek. So I was, and paying attention to all the old players with all their old records, because I used to have a bunch of sports collectible cards growing up, and it had all the records of of when they broke them and when and how. So, and I did come across Ty Cobb through those cards.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of great history with all those teams and Ty. A lot of stories there, and since you're a Yankee fan, a lot of people think that Ty and the Babe had this big hate going on.
Yeah, I wondered about that too.
Yeah, and so I just tell you that, in the beginning, maybe Ty had played a different baseball. He was all about the psychology of baseball, not the long ball, how to run the bases, and
right.
And so that was he proved he could hit the long ball, and he still holds the record, I think, with Stan Musial of hitting 5 home runs in 2 days.
Stan the Man? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he proved he could do
man.
that, but it wasn't his style, so he kept to his style, but he and the Babe became friends, and
Well, what do you mean by
they
style?
were social with each other, and I have a story from my dad when he was a youngster, probably in the late 20s. They were all in New York, and families were going to dinner with the Babe's house, but my grandparents decided that they would rather leave the kids home because they weren't sure what was going to go on, and after a few drinks or whatever. But so my dad and my aunt are in the hotel room instead, throwing things out of the window down to the street, and so how much trouble can you get into? Anyway. But so they had a great friendship and really admired each other and had a lot of fun together. So
I wondered about that.
I would like people to know that, because oftentimes it's said that they hated each other, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Cindy, I wanted to bring up. Go ahead, Lou.
You can't believe everything you see or hear in the movies.
I wanted to bring up the issue of Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was from South Carolina, I believe, and there's a great story when he, after Jackson had been banned from baseball, Ty was in the South and I believe in Greenville, South Carolina, and decided to go to Jackson's store. It was a general store, and he went in and Jackson didn't respond, and Ty said, "Joe, don't you know me?" And then Jackson said, "Well, yeah, I know you, but I wasn't sure if you knew me," because he had become sort of an outcast. People, and this was really where Ty Cobb showed his friendship. He says, "Well, you're my friend, and I don't care what happened. You're my friend." And see that's an important thing, because of that. In the movie Field of Dreams, they give you this the scene where the ghost of Joe Jackson, says otherwise regarding Ty Cobb, and which is unfortunate.
Yeah, Peter, I like to say Kinsella got it wrong, because he did, and this is the myth perpetuation. And Ty always said that Joe Jackson was the most natural hitter and really admired him. And I just to add to that story, Grantland Rice, who was a famous sports writer back in the day, was with Ty when they visited Mr. Jackson, and Grantland Rice was also the sports writer when Ty was he was in the minor leagues. He would write to Grantland Rice under different pen names, saying, "Hey, have you seen that Ty Cobb, and what a great hitter he is, and this and that." But that's what kind of got him the name. He it piqued his interest, and Grantland Rice wrote about him. So anyway, they became good friends, and
that's a good story. He was trying to make a name for himself, and
right.
That's nothing wrong with that when you're young and unknown.
Well, and maybe people don't know this also, that when Ty and Joe Jackson were young ball players, we're talking probably maybe 1907 or so, they were in a play together. There's a great photo of them sitting together in their ball uniforms on the field, reading their lines. And so that's something people probably don't know either.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think Joe Jackson had a big part, and it was a lot of traveling in the off season. So I think he left the acting troupe at some point. But yeah, they shared. They definitely shared some moments together, some private moments.
I like this quote by your grandfather. He's talking about how hard he played, very hard player, and he said, "I did it for my father. He never got to see me play, but I knew he was watching me, and I never let him down." Now, Ty Cobb's father died 3 weeks before his MLB debut. I thought that was such a touching quote, that he felt, you have to feel for the guy losing his father right before his career starts. And he said he always, I knew he was watching me. So that's really beautiful that he had it in his mind and probably was watching him from the next world.
Yeah. Well, his father definitely gave him a great foundation, being an educator himself, state senator. He got a good, Ty didn't go to college, but he learned from his father in his writings. His father was an eloquent writer, and Ty went on to be a sports writer as well early on, and there's great archive materials of what he writes, which I also share. If anyone wants to see the archives that I share, you can look me up on Facebook under Cindy Cobb, Cindy Cobb. I share all the archives publicly. So, so there's a lot of stories.
And the book by Herschel Cobb, your uncle, Heart of a Tiger.
Yeah, so now Herschel is my cousin. So
your cousin.
He talks about his time, his summers spent with my grandfather and my grandmother, and it's very poignant. It's a lovely book. He had a pretty rough upbringing, but Granddad was very just loved all of us, loved his family, and wanted to know where we all were, and was very, I guess, active in his role as grandfather. So,
Lou, do you have a final question for Cindy Cobb?
No, just about it. But can I shout out my show for a minute, if I may, Peter?
Sure.
Yes, I have a show on Saturday nights from 5 to 7 p.m. called the Enhanced Sports Show. We cover all topics in the world of sports, cover almost everything. The number is 512-543-4662. If you're interested, you can give a call on any given Saturday night. Except
okay. Well, appreciate that. Sounds really good. Thanks for the call, Lou, and all the best.
But we're on this weekend, though. We are on.
Okay, great, wonderful. Good luck to you. We'll check it out.
Good luck to you.
Please do. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, we're running out of time here tonight. Cindy, do you have any final words for now, at least? We can probably do this again sometime. And do you have any final words regarding Ty Cobb?
I would encourage everyone, I think I said earlier, to consider your sources and what you read, and also the backstory and do your own research. It's fun to go back in time and read the newspapers of the day and check out what happened. in those crazy dead ball days. If you're looking into anything about Ty Cobb, they were truly some wild times, unique to their day, and quite a different era.
Different era, that's for sure. Well, thank you so much, Cindy, for coming on tonight, and we really appreciate it. And it was, like I said, it's baseball is so deep in the heart of the American character and who we are as a people. And your grandfather has a super important role to play in that from his life and career, and that which is still true. And that's why it's so important to restore his good name. So thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so, okay, well, this is Peter Ray with, and the show is American Sports History on the Prime Time with the Stables, network.com with Mark Mancini. Next week's guest will be Jeff Juden, MLB player from 1991 to 1999. So I'd like to, in saying good night to everybody, I'd like to quote Joe Tate, who was a Cleveland Indians and Cleveland Cavaliers broadcaster in MLB and the NBA. I'd like to quote Joe Tate. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay, good night. God bless you, Cindy.